Welcome to our fourth and final webinar on propulsion, the story of sails and auxiliaries or engines. In the 18th century they did not have an engine aboard, but they did have this. So the Hermione, just like the traditional one, the original one, has 17 sails, and they cover a surface area of 2,200 meters squared, which is, for us that work in feet, it's 23,680 square feet, which is huge. We're talking about several basketball courts of sails, and to manipulate them it takes a lot of sailors. Back in the day, the Hermione was powered or was handled by anywhere from 240 to 300 men, because they had not only to sail the ship, but they also had to manage the cannons. Today we are 80 aboard, and at any one time there'll only be 20 to 22 sailors handling the sails. And the amazing thing is that because of the miles and miles of rope that need to be handled and the weight of these sails, it can take well over an hour. And in fact, the best time we've had is about an hour and 15 minutes to set all the sails at once. Once the sails are set and we're sailing along, one of the big misconceptions that many people have is that because it's a square sail, that the only way the boat moves forward is if the wind pushes the boat forward. And that's true if the wind is directly behind us. In fact, square sails do work by pushing the boat in that case. But most of the time, the wind is coming across the ship or actually from in front of the ship. And in that case, the sails need to be turned to allow the wind to blow across the sail, not from behind it. And in fact, it's just like the wing of an airplane. The sail pulls the boat forward because there's a draft in front of the sail. There's a low pressure in front of the sail and a high pressure in back, and that actually sucks the sail forward, which pulls the ship. And there's a demonstration I can do for you. If you can try this on your own, just take a simple piece of paper and you blow as hard as you can over the top of it. You're going to see my breath lift the sail. If I blow hard enough. There you go. And that's the lift that causes the ship to move forward most of the time. So clearly the Hermione is sailing a long distance and using traditional cloth-made sails, linen sails. She's putting those sails to a real test, and as we sail across, there's going to be times when they need to be maintained, and that's why we have a sailmaker aboard. Anne is constantly watching the sails and calling on sailors to help her restitch sails as we make our way across. In addition to that, she's also teaching us how to make a sail while we sail. So we're actually in the process of putting together by hand a replacement sail, and teaching all of the sailors how to stitch and the functionalities of that sail, so that we all learn while we make this trip. Once we're done using the sails, there are two ways to stow them. The first part is called carguing, which is to just bring up the bottom of the sail to take the wind out of it, essentially. But then when we're really done, we need to furl it completely. We need to put it up against the yardarm, and that's what my co-gabiers are doing up above me. So obviously we love sailing, but that's not always possible. Sometimes there's no wind, or it's coming from the wrong direction. And in that case, the Hermione, being a modern ship, has an advantage over the 18th century. She's powered. She's got auxiliaries. The way it works is that these two generators, 400 kilowatt generators, power two electric engines that we're going to see later at the aft end of the ship. In the meantime, though, the engine that you're hearing right now has nothing to do with propulsion. It's actually feeding the ship electrically to keep the refrigerators, the washing machines, the lights on board all functioning. That's what you're hearing right now. So coming out of the engine room, we're now in a space where things are maintained. And this is the chief mechanic's space, Philippe, who's not here right now. This is where he keeps all the spare parts and where the pumps are located that circulate the water to cool the engines, but also to provide water for the crew. And I want to show you something kind of really cool about this ship that we're going to go over here to look at. So back here is where they turn salt water into fresh water. This is called a reverse osmosis machine. Fancy name for basically taking seawater and processing it under pressure to pull all the salt out of it. And it ends up giving us fresh water. But there's still also bacteria that can be in it. And so this boat has something that I've never seen before, but it's really fancy. It's an ultraviolet device. All the water passes through this silver tube back here, is exposed to UV rays, which purify the water one step further. So this system gives us an endless supply of fresh water, but of course, we're all sailors at our origins, and we're going to be really careful not to abuse that because it takes energy to make this water, and we're conscious of that. Follow me. We're going to stop here just 1 minute because we're happening going through here. You might recognize this. It's called a kitchen, which might be very strange to find it in the bilge of a boat, but here we are. And with 80 hungry sailors, there's a lot of activity. Right now it's nighttime. Everyone's resting for tomorrow when we leave. But you can see that there are ovens, there are placed dishwashers, and around the corner here there's a number of large freezers to keep all our food frozen that needs to be. So continuing our way back through the ship, I want to stop here for a second. This is called the campus, or in English it would be the pantry, and it's fully stocked today, just today, for our long trip across the Atlantic. I wanted to show you that we've got washers and dryers to keep everything clean, but also just the amazing amount of food that it takes to feed 80 people while we make our way to the engines. So we finally made it. We're in the engine room. We've done the entire length of the ship, and we are now in the location where these electric pods, what you're seeing is the motor itself, and through the hull, which is right here, it goes out to this large cylinder which has a huge propeller in it. And we've got two of them, one on either side, and the pods themselves actually rotate. You saw the picture on the website. They rotate left and right to push the boat one way or the other, or stay straight to push her forward. They're pretty amazing. So those are the engines, and now we're in a room just above the engines called the scent valve, which is a space that's shared by the doctor, as well as the place where the sailmaker does all her repairs on the sails. And that's our unit on propulsion. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. And it's also our last webinar of the series, so it's been a pleasure being with you on this trip. We look forward to seeing you at one of the stops along the route on the US coast. Take care, everybody.